Okay, so this section is about the spread of punk in the UK, which is very, very fast. I think one of the reasons that punk was very different in the UK and the US was because Britain is so much smaller. I know it seems obvious, but there was a centralized media. There were 4 music papers writing about punk from 1976. Between all 4 of them, they probably reached about 2 million kids every week. So it was much easier to make an impact. And so things, once they'd begun in London and England in particular, they moved incredibly quickly. So a lot of this stuff is from 77, 78 in the cabinet. And there's a lot of London groups in here. There's Generation X. I actually did that poster, so that was in March 77. There's Wire. There's X-Ray Specs. And there's also early fanzines, and fanzines were incredibly important also in American and in British punk. And the idea of the fanzine, it was you produced your own magazine, and so there was no censorship, and you could say exactly what you wanted. And also, apart from the music press, punk was not covered anywhere else in the media. Wasn't covered in the mainstream newspapers. They didn't understand it. It was before mainstream newspapers covered music in any great detail. Pop was still thought to be a purely teenage, transient phenomenon. So fanzines were incredibly important because they enabled access to young people who wanted to say something, who wanted to do something, in the same way that the do-it-yourself approach to making music enabled people to become musicians. And here you see very good examples of it, and you get the kind of chaotic graphics and the montage graphics, which were another very important part of punk. And I think that the use of montage, saying that, and in that, I now regard as a way of processing large amounts of data in a very speedy and accessible form. Up here is interesting because you have the slightly wider impact. You have the start of women forming groups, the Slits, with their classic single, Typical Girls. And you also have punk moving out of London into different parts of the UK. In particular, Manchester, this setup shows Manchester groups, in particular like the Buzzcocks down here, Orgasm Addict. That to me is the best single image to come out of punk. It's the best actual mixture of graphic design, montage, and actual music. The song is terrific. And the montage was done by the artist Linda Sterling, who is now a well-known feminist artist. And I again did that poster, which is for Joy Division in 1979. More montages. Joy Division were the biggest group in Manchester at that time, which didn't mean very much because hardly anybody knew about them. They were definitely one of the best groups I saw play live at that period, and they have an influence that endures in the 21st century.